Good morning, friends. Good morning, good morning. Lovely to be back. Lovely to see you again. How are you this morning? I'm doing really well. I practice gratitude regularly, so even when things are chaotic, I still manage to find something to be grateful for. A lot of us are in burnout. Burnout is a real thing. It's been classified as a condition by the World Health Organization, and it's specifically around work-related pressure. And definitely having family problems or having other issues will contribute to burnout in a big way. So we're going to be exploring today what is burnout, what type of personality has burnout, what are those causes, and we're going to be doing a survey to find out if you are in burnout or if you are approaching burnout, because a lot of the time we are like a little froggy. I've got this plastic frog. We're like a little froggy that's boiling in the pot, and the frog doesn't know it's boiling until it's too late. So that might be us. We might be sitting in the pond or the water, and the water is warm. It's not quite yet at boil, but we could land up in that situation, and we think to ourselves, how on earth did I get here? So we've got another 45 minutes together. We're going to be diving into this wonderful topic. Thank you for joining. Let's start off with taking 3 deep breaths. In fact, this is what I encourage before anything, any meeting, any get-together, is just an opportunity to breathe. And when you're going through a hard time or when you're going through a stressful moment, there's a friend of yours or someone that's amazing in your life that just says, just take a breath, just breathe, So it's our natural sort of feeling, our natural instinct is when we are really overwhelmed, really upset, really grieving to breathe, that little chunky cry breathe, yeah, like that. So anyway, let's breathe together. We won't be breathing that cry breath, but we'll be breathing a nice smooth breath. Sitting in your chair, in your safe space, and we can take a deep breath in, breathing in through the nose. And then slowly exhaling out the nostrils. And again, let's breathe in nice and smooth, breathing in through the nose. And then slowly exhale it out the nostrils. And last big breath, breathing in through the nose. Really fill those lungs. And now gently sigh that breath out. Now coming to a normal breath. Just be grateful for the opportunity to jump off the hamster wheel, to take a moment for yourself. And we can together go beyond burnout. Good. So now gently opening your eyes and coming back into the space. So yeah, we're going to be sharing a little journey avoiding burnout, and this is wonderful imagery of a match that's sort of sticking out from all the others. And burnout is really a condition that is easily spread. One person can be suffering from extreme anxiety and stress, and that can spread to everybody else very quickly and very easily. There's been a lot of research being done in schools where teachers themselves have been extremely stressed, and cortisol levels of the children in the class were taken, and they found that the stress chemical cortisol was higher in the saliva of the children with a teacher that was experiencing burnout, as compared to a teacher that wasn't. So if we are under incredible stress, those around us can also be affected. So this image really speaks to that. This character over here is a character I created. His name is Neo, and Neo likes to juggle. It's a bit of a psychedelic background, but to show the chaos that is behind him. And Neo is juggling a lot of balls at the same time, and he's very enthusiastic. He's a colleague or a friend or a family member who is very enthusiastic about their job. They're the kind of person that is A-type personality, and they just want to give their best. They're the kind of person that never says no to anything. They want to prove themselves. They also struggle with self-worth and confidence. So hence the need for acceptance. And that's why they think that their boss will love them and appreciate them if they are always on, if they are always available, and they believe that being busy is a good thing. So they're juggling, and you can see their boss there in the corner, Jeremy, is throwing him another ball because they love it. They say, wow, Neo is this person that is so productive. They work late. They always get things done. You know, there's that saying, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. Yeah, so the poor busy person, right? Juggling all these things. Is this you? Are you busy juggling at the moment? Too many things? And Jeremy, I mean, he's having a great time. He's loving his weekends. He's got no problem enjoying a coffee. Neo, unfortunately, doesn't have the time. Neo is sweating because Neo now has an extra ball that Jeremy threw him last week, which means that the weekend was busy. There was no time for rest. Sleep is also being affected. Neo is struggling to sleep. And Jeremy's fine. His life is peachy. But Neo is really starting to feel the effects. Neo is also working late nights. In fact, waking up in the night to carry on working. So, yeah, and there are people that do this. It might even be you. But what happens is there's, after too much of this juggling, what happens then is that little things start to happen. There's deadlines that are looming. And the problem is there's a big to-do list. So this to-do list really grows and grows and grows with the more balls that you try and juggle, the more meetings that you join, the more email threads that you get involved with, the more, because you're just trying to be there for everyone. You're trying to say yes to everyone, but you are sweating. I mean, the shirt is wet because there's too much. You've got no time for yourself. And Neo, when he grew up, you know, he was taught to, we went from one class to the next, very busy. The teachers never said, let's take a breath. The teachers, Neo finished school, had to do extra curriculum, sports, rush. Everything was a big rush. Neo's mom and dad were always rushing him backwards and forwards. And if Neo wanted a moment at home to just do nothing, his parents would say, hey, Neo, what you doing? Why are you just sitting there? Come, don't just sit there, do something. And now in the mental health world, when we are dealing with real issues of psychological strain, we are encouraging people not to just do something, but sit there, okay? To sit there and disengage, detach, find your space. And if we go back to this one, where Jeremy's saying, how's your weekend? He said, busy. You know, we, often in our language, when we meet people, they say, how are you? We say, I'm so busy. And then we say, how are you? And the other person say, me, I'm very busy. So we wear like a badge of honor. This, like, I'm busy, I am so busy. We wear it like a badge of honor, like we are proud to be busy. But unfortunately, this badge of honor has it has a needle, it has a pin that is sticking into us and it is hurting us. This busyness, this badge of honor. We think being busy is being productive, but it's not so. It's not so. Because eventually what happens is we start to drop the balls. We can't sustain it. Our mental health deteriorates. We go into burnout, which is preceding depression. And our mental health begins to struggle. We miss the details. We make mistakes. We become apathetic. We start to have arguments with our colleagues because we're so stressed. We are very emotional. Even the smallest thing, like a leaf blower, can upset you. We start to really lose who we are. In fact, there's something called depersonalization, where you actually don't even recognize yourself anymore because your personality changes so much. Has anyone on this platform ever experienced that? Let me know. Put it in the Q&A. Have you ever suffered from burnout? It's no joke. It's no joke. If you are booked off work for burnout, you might be booked off for weeks, sometimes months. And then do you know how difficult it is to come back to work? Very, very hard. So what's happening here really is that Jeremy is having to pick up the pieces of Neo's mistakes, causing increased strain and pressure. And a person like Neo, being A-type personality, thinking that by saying yes to everything was doing good, actually the relationship now between him and his line manager has deteriorated to a poor performance review for Neo. How sad is that? We have all the right intentions, but you know what they say? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Quite a heavy thing to say. I don't know where I got that from, but it's true, right? It's true. We're just taking on way too much, way too much. And we're making mistakes. We're actually becoming anti-productive. We're not even not productive. We are now anti-productive. Burnout. Burnout, burnout, burnout. Burnout, burnout. Burnout. This was me, burnt out. In 2017, I burnt out completely. It was a bad year for me. I was managing director of my own company, had my own advertising agency, a dream that I had for years, all my life. I wanted to be the managing director. I wanted to be the boss. And then eventually I became the boss. And I had a business which was doing very well. I had a business partner, and something wasn't right with my relationship with my business partner. And I started to investigate why I'm feeling uneasy. And I found out that there was money being taken out of the business, and that this person was paying the tax officials bribes. And I started to uncover a lot of things. And I was very stressed. I had to get lawyers. I went into a legal fight with my partner, my ex-partner. I lost a lot of money. And at that time, I remember waking up one morning and my heart was beating fast and I had chest pain. I was sweating and I was struggling to breathe. And I said to my wife, I think I'm having a heart attack. And she put me in the car. She drove me to the hospital, and my son was 8 years old at that time. He had to come with us because we couldn't leave him alone in the house. And it was traumatic. Early morning, wheeled into emergency, and the nurse putting needles into me and taking blood and monitoring my heart, and eventually saying to me, "Sir, you are not having a heart attack. It looks like you are having a panic attack." And I said, "No, you don't understand. My heart is paining. I'm feeling it's definitely my heart." And she said, "No, your heart is fine." I didn't believe her. I had to stay in hospital. I had another one of these episodes 3 weeks later, again, finding myself in the emergency ward, having to stay in hospital for 2 days, and then being diagnosed as having burnout. I still didn't believe it. I went to 3 different cardiologists. They all told me the same thing. Your stress is out of control. There's nothing wrong with your heart. I had a scan done, like a CAT scan of my heart. It was incredible. And they said, you don't have a heart problem. I realized at that point, a good friend then said to me, "You need to identify what is causing you your anxiety." And I said, "Look, I must be honest, it's my business partner." And when I made it clear in my mind, it was obvious, but I didn't realize that this stress was killing me, was hurting me so badly. And when I realized this, I left my own business. I walked out of my own company. My father-in-law thought I went mad, but I left my own business. I walked out. I walked out the door and I said, "You deal with it." I lost a fortune in money, but my mental health, that was more valuable to me than financial prosperity. And moving into Mindful Revolution and being able to share my story with you, and hopefully you can recognize the signs. I didn't, and it hurt me and it hurt my family terribly. So please, your mental health is vital. The one thing that I learned through this journey, and I'm going to go back to those slides, is really what happens in the body, which I never realized, and you can really feel it. It's a real shift. When we are going through chronic stress, our sympathetic nervous system is activated, and what happens here is our pupils dilate, the heart beats faster, the lungs increase, and the stomach slows down in terms of digestion. Basically, when our brain perceives a threat, the amygdala shuts down our prefrontal cortex, and there's a release of cortisol, which is a stress chemical, and adrenaline. These chemicals are very good for you in terms of energy and in terms of getting ready for a fight or a flight or a runaway. So they give you an extra boost, and this can help you. This can save your life. It's very, very good in the case of an attack, a physical attack, or if an animal attacks you, or something bites you, or something is threatening, like a car accident, or in an accident situation. It's very good and can literally give you the energy and the power to fight off an attack for your family. The problem is that your sympathetic nervous system is activated when you are feeling overwhelmed, when you are feeling irritated, when you are feeling angry, upset, when you get that email and it just rubs you up the wrong way, when you are in a panic situation. We then experience a constant firing of our sympathetic nervous system, which leads to chronic stress. Now, we've got big problems, but when I went outside this morning, I did not see a lion. I did not see an animal coming to attack me. I did not see people charging down the road coming to kill me. So those are all ancient ways of survival. Your ancestors 10,000 years ago, when they went in to look for food or hunt, their sympathetic nervous system was working very well for them for survival. And then to keep them alive, if something attacks you or bites you, because of the cortisol and adrenaline, you don't feel the pain as much. And when you slow down, then you really get sore. I don't know if any of you have been in an accident where you don't realize you hurt, but then when you calm down, you can feel the pain. And that's because your fight or flight system kicked in, protecting you from pain in that particular moment, giving you energy and strength. When we rest and when we digest and we're feeling happy and our breath is nice and smooth, and then we move into what is called the parasympathetic nervous system. We call this the rest, digest, and thrive state. And here's where you feel safe, where your immune system is working well, your heart's beating slower, you're feeling healthy and happy, there's no stress around. So to understand that our body hasn't changed in 10,000 years, we still have the same body, but our world has changed. Now the lion that we perceive as a threat is an email, or a road rage, or I don't know, whatever pushes your buttons, the leaf blower, or too much noise, or an argument at home, etc. And if it's compounded and we don't do something about it, it leads into chronic stress. And then mental illness, burnout, mental illness. 3 in 6 employees take time off due to work due to mental illness. Okay, that's quite high. 3 in 6. 5 in 6 are going to lie about why they're taking off time. They're not comfortable to talk about their anxiety or their panic or their fear or their grief to their line manager, because they're scared they're going to lose their job, or that people are going to look at them and say, you are crazy. Okay, so that is really sobering. I wanted to play this video for you around stress. I think it's really great. Please enjoy this.
Are you sleeping restlessly, feeling irritable or moody, forgetting little things, and feeling overwhelmed and isolated? Don't worry, we've all been there. You're probably just stressed out. Stress isn't always a bad thing. It can be handy for a burst of extra energy and focus, like when you're playing a competitive sport or have to speak in public. But when it's continuous, the kind most of us face day in and day out, it actually begins to change your brain. Chronic stress, like being overworked or having arguments at home, can affect brain size, its structure, and how it functions, right down to the level of your genes. Stress begins with something called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, a series of interactions between endocrine glands in the brain and on the kidney, which controls your body's reaction to stress. When your brain detects a stressful situation, your HPA axis is instantly activated and releases a hormone called cortisol, which primes your body for instant action. But high levels of cortisol over long periods of time wreak havoc on your brain. For example, chronic stress increases the activity level and number of neural connections in the amygdala, your brain's fear center. And as levels of cortisol rise, electric signals in your hippocampus, the part of the brain associated with learning, memories, and stress control, deteriorate. The hippocampus also inhibits the activity of the HPA axis, so when it weakens, so does your ability to control your stress. That's not all though. Cortisol can literally cause your brain to shrink in size. Too much of it results in the loss of synaptic connections between neurons and the shrinking of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that regulates behaviors like concentration, decision-making, judgment, and social interaction. It also leads to fewer new brain cells being made in the hippocampus, This means chronic stress might make it harder for you to learn and remember things, and also set the stage for more serious mental problems like depression and eventually Alzheimer's disease. The effects of stress may filter right down to your brain's DNA. An experiment showed that the amount of nurturing a mother rat provides its newborn baby plays a part in determining how that baby responds to stress later in life. The pups of nurturing moms turned out less sensitive to stress because their brains developed more cortisol receptors, which stick to cortisol and dampen the stress response. The pups of negligent moms had the opposite outcome, and so became more sensitive to stress throughout life. These are considered epigenetic changes, meaning that they affect which genes are expressed without directly changing the genetic code. And these changes can be reversed if the moms are swapped. But there's a surprising result. The epigenetic changes caused by one single mother rat were passed down to many generations of rats after her. In other words, the results of these actions were inheritable. It's not all bad news, though. There are many ways to reverse what cortisol does to your stressed brain. The most powerful weapons are exercise and meditation, which involves breathing deeply and being aware and focused on your surroundings. Both of these activities decrease your stress and increase the size of the hippocampus, thereby improving your memory. So don't feel defeated by the pressures of daily life. Get in control of your stress before it takes control of you.
Get hold of your stress before it takes control of you. That's the final message. Isn't that video just incredible, with the amount of detail information in there about how stress affects us, even down to our DNA. Even our unborn children will feel the effects of our stress that isn't managed. It's unbelievable, but it's true. And great explanation about the brain and how the brain is affected by cortisol and by adrenaline. So yeah, are we going to just let it go out of control? No. There's something we can do about it. We can flatten the stress curve. We've all been encouraged to flatten the COVID curve by social distancing, and we've put masks on. But what are we doing for our stress? What are we doing to flatten the stress curve? Now, if you look at the bell curve here, you can see that a little bit of stress is not bad for you. It gives you peak performance in terms of what, that public speaking, or if you're doing a kind of a sport and the crowds are watching, it gives you a little bit of energy, that extra little boost that you get from the adrenaline and the cortisol. But prolonged stress leads to chronic illness, chronic stress, fatigue, exhaustion, panic, anxiety, anger, burnout, breakdown, stress, overload. Where are you on this bell curve? Where are you today on this bell curve? And it's just really, really that important to know where you are, right? Okay, super. So I'm going to invite my colleague, Chris Burkett. Chris is with us, and Chris is going to be running a survey for you. And Chris, welcome on. How are you?
Hi, Mark. I'm doing good. I'm sure you can see my slides already up on the screen, although you probably can't see me yet. So I'm going to put myself up on the screen as well. What you're looking at right now is a QR code. And with this QR code, what you can do is open up your phone and launch the camera app on your phone. You can point it at that QR code. And when you point at the QR code, you should get a little pop-up, and you can click on that, and it'll take you through to our survey. If the QR code's not working for you, don't worry. You can go to the link that's shown on the screen, and I will drop the link into the Q&A in just a moment as well. The survey that we're going to be running is confidential, and we've made it confidential in a way that when you finish the survey, when you click on the final submit button, you then need to make a note of your results, because we can't give you the results later because we've stripped all identifying information off there. So that result is just for you. Do make a note of it. You'll get a percentage result. It's also a score on a 75-point scale. And we will also put those results up on screen as they start to come in, but as the averages, not as your personal results. So that score is just for you. Don't forget to make a note of it, because we can't give it to you later. And with that, what you'll see on the screen is our results are going to start flowing in, because I can see some people have already completed that survey. And I'm going to pass back over to you, Mark, while I just check in on those results.
Thanks, Chris. Friends, don't forget to push submit once you've gone through your survey. And it's amazing. You can see those questions are very, very, very much work related. Burnout, yes. Burnout is very, very, very much work related. Depression, on the other hand, is related to a variety of factors. Quite interestingly enough, Chris, I read recently that burnout, you could go away on holiday to a beautiful place and you can come back and you can feel less burnt out. But if you're depressed, you can go away on a nice holiday and it's not going to help. It's like the beautiful place, the beautiful food, the nice experience. If you are in a state of depression, that's not going to help you. It's important to know that if burnout is not managed, it leads to depression. And when you're in depression, it's very difficult to get you out of that. Then you have to deal with chemicals and psychiatry, and you don't want to get there. That's why we're tackling burnout while we can. My father had burnout. He had depression. He then had acute bipolar schizophrenia, and then he took his life. That is definitely not the track that any of us want to be on. How's it looking there, Chris?
Well, actually, we've just had a bunch of responses flow in all at once, but surprisingly, it hasn't shifted the score at all. So our average is sitting right there at that 46 point, and I don't know if we're going to. Having said that, it's just dropped a number. I'm seeing quite a few flowing in right now. I think people are catching up with us on the stream. So I think that we're probably going to land up hovering somewhere between 45 and 46, because it's stayed there quite a bit. It might climb a bit as people get to the survey, but I've got very high percentage of the people in the session right now have responded. So we're sitting at probably a 70% response rate. So I think we can probably move on from that burnout score, because I see it's jumped another 2 points, but I don't think it's going to move much from the mid 40s. And that's not a terrible score. You know, we do burnout surveys like this with other places, and you know, sometimes we see people popping over into that severe risk of burnout. But having said that, you know, the be careful, there's a risk of burnout is not something to be scoffed at. That's still a real thing, even though it's slightly lower than it may have been in other circumstances. But Mark, I think we're settled right in there, and that's going to be our final result now, because I can see we're up to a 90% response rate of the people that are in the room.
Sure. Thank you, Chris. So there we go, friends. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. You've done your best. You've filled out the survey. We are at a risk of burnout. There it is. And those are just the people that are on this call. It's real. It's very real. We've exposed it. What are we going to do about it? That's the question. Chris, thank you so much for running that survey. It's awesome. Really appreciate you and the survey. Yeah, so here we go. Back to Nao. The mindful owl is jumping in and says, Nao, what's your priority? You've got all this going on. You're making mistakes. You're in burnout. You've got to prioritize. What are you prioritizing? And they are saying everything is urgent. Everything is urgent. Every single email that I'm getting is a priority. And the mindful owl is saying it's just that it can't be like that. It can't be like that. Productivity tips for Nao. He's gone onto a course on a mindfulness training like you are on now. And through this training, he's coming out of burnout because he realizes that he's checking his email like everybody else does, 90 times a day. 90 is how many times the average knowledge worker checks their email in a day. It's crazy. They say that we should be checking our emails 4 times a day. Now, me, I never be checking my emails 4 times a day, but somewhere between 4 and 90 is acceptable, I would think. 90 times a day means that we will never truly focus on one thing properly. Richard Sutton said in a recent interview, he wrote the book called The Stress Code, which I have next to me here. He said to me that if you go off your task to look at an email for 4 seconds, you are off looking at an email, the margin of error for what you are doing increases by 300%. So if you spend 4 seconds glancing quickly at your phone or an email, the margin of error for what you are working on increases by 300%. If you are working on something and you go off the task for about 4 minutes, it will take you on average 28 minutes to come back to the level of focus that you were at before you got distracted by an email or your phone. Okay, it's so interesting. Gloria Mark from the University of California says that 2 hours in a day we are being distracted, or we're in distraction. That's 2 hours in a working day of 9 hours. That's a lot of time. And then we wonder why we have to work late and work weekends when we're not working smart. We're working blindly. So it's the same thing with your phone. You're checking your phone 110 times a day. You know, it's just too much. We need to create focus zones. We can check our phone, but at certain times. We can check our email, but at certain times. Instead of reacting to every single beep, blop, bop that comes through, it's hurting us. It's hurting our mental health. So even setting boundaries, to set boundaries, block off zones, focus zones, no interruption zones, you know. Tell people I can't attend every single meeting. I'm not going to be pulled and this and that. You know, the research is that we are working in this pandemic 48 minutes extra in a day, 48 minutes more in a day. And take back your weekends, take back your evenings, and say, no, my life, my happiness is important to me, it's important to my family, and I'm not going to work and give my life up for the sake of burnout. That isn't going to help my partner, it's not going to help my children, it's not going to help me. I'm no use to anybody if I'm sick. And if we don't take time for our wellness, we will be forced to make time for our illness. And I always encourage people, just go outside, just get outside, you know, stand in the sun. They say vitamin D is fantastic for our immune system, especially at this time of COVID. Walking is healthy. When you walk, be in the moment, look at the trees, look at the birds, enjoy your environment, get out of your head, get out of your worries, get out of your fears, and live in the present. Live in the present. Okay, so I'd like to lead us into a little practice right now, just to end this session. It's a mindfulness practice, but it's also quite practical for you. So where you are now, with your feet firmly on the ground, and your hands in your lap or your knees, let's enjoy a deep inhalation, breathing in through the nose and slowly exhaling out the mouth. Great. Let us imagine that your brain or your mind is like a computer. You may have many windows open. Let's minimize them or close them down. These may be emails, they may be projects, plans, thoughts, ideas. Let's just minimize them for now. You don't have to close them completely. Just put them on the back burner. Let's imagine you could create a folder in your brain or your mind called postpone for later. Whatever arises, a sound, a sensation, a thought, just move it into that folder, postpone for later. And let's run an antivirus program called the breath. Our breath is always running, actually, otherwise we would not be sitting here. But let's focus on this program for a little while. Your breathing slow and calm. Whatever is arising, just move it into that folder. Your desktop is clear and clean with one folder in it. You are running the breath. The breath is clearing out our mind and helping us to relax. And when we are relaxed, we can see things clearly. We can know, ooh, I now know what I need to prioritize. All my thoughts and emotions have settled down, and I can see clearly into my mind what is important now. Before, I didn't see, I didn't know. I'm just relaxed now on my breath. I can then decide which window I need to open up again and look at. One at a time, not all together. I can also decide to go into the folder, postpone for later, and I can choose anything that I put in there, but one at a time and not all of them. I can have a healthier relationship with my emails and my notifications. And I can scan which ones I think are priority, and I don't need to answer all of them immediately. Let's breathe in again. Nice deep breath, breathing in. And slowly exhale it out the mouth. And then gently opening your eyes. There we go. Nice little meditation. And yeah, so just realizing that it's really important, because if you are really busy all the time, your mind looks like this. There's a thing about 8 construction projects, so your mind might look like this. And even if you stop for 3 minutes, what happens is your mind starts to settle. And all the thoughts, emotions, and overwhelm settles with a 2. And when the mind becomes clearer, you can see clearly what to do. I worked on a big project. I put in an all-nighter. I thought I was doing a great job. Finished it at 1 o'clock in the morning. I didn't have any breaks. It was go, 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 go. I went away for a beautiful meditation weekend. I came back. I looked at what I'd done, and my work was sloppy. And I thought to myself, no. I redid it within an hour. And it was better than ever. So with fresh eyes, with clear eyes, I can do a better job. Leonardo da Vinci says, every now and then, go away, have a little relaxation, for when you come back to your work, your judgment will be surer, since to remain constantly at work will cause you to lose your power of judgment. Go some distance away, because the work appears smaller and more of it can be seen at a glance. The lack of harmony or proportion is more readily seen. That is one of the greatest inventors that ever lived, Leonardo da Vinci, and also a very busy person. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart said, when I am completely myself, entirely all alone, or during the night when I cannot sleep, it is on such occasions that my ideas flow best and most abundantly. Innovation. Whence and how these come, I know not. I can't force them, nor do I hear in my imagination the parts successfully, but I hear them at the same time all together. That's Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Remember, your best doesn't mean pushing yourself to your breaking point. Your best means the best you can do while being the best you. Get enough sleep, give yourself breaks, listen to your limits. Your best is better when you are happy and when you are healthy. Okay? So thank you, friends, for joining today. That's the end of our session. Please be well, be safe, look after your mental health. It is just that important. Create those boundaries, etc. And we will see you again soon. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.